And it was a privilege to work with these guys because they were just way out there. And so one thing led to another. I ended up traveling, spending a lot of time and money learning. I went on at least 40 courses all over the place. I was pretty penniless at the time, but just learning more and more and bumping into the most amazing people.
Hello, I'm here with bedraggled hair. How's it going? Welcome to the Mark Outward Show, Adventures in a Cosmic Suit. It is currently Wednesday, the 19th of June, in the middle of the craziest time of our lives. Are you having fun? Well, many things to discuss. Firstly, don't forget you can get a free ebook copy of Weapons of Mass Protection, the book Practical Tools for Spiritual Warfare by me and Abby Wynn. The link will be below this video. It's getting 5-star reviews most places. It's not bad. It's quite humbling, actually. And you'll get links to where you can buy the book and where you get the audio book and all of that. But if you're broke, there's no excuse. You can get it for free. We don't even check. Isn't that nice? 5D business. Talking of 5D business, regular viewers will know that myself and my friend Gary set up a healing center, wellness center in the west of Ireland a year ago. Can you believe it? Called live5dhealth.com. Go to that website if you want to look at it. And things are moving apace there. We have a fantastic talk this weekend from Professor Ian McDermott, who's a Harley Street surgeon who's coming all the way to Ireland to talk in a little pub about medical ethics, in the COVID era, which should be very interesting. You'd be welcome to come to that as well. I'll leave a link below this video to that. But today, what I want to talk about is really to do with understanding where you are from a health perspective. The last 4 years have taught us all that taking responsibility for our own health has to be top of our list, because health is wealth. I mean, without it, you're not here or you're not enjoying life. But from a literal perspective, we have been poisoned our entire lives. And myself, I've done as much as I can whilst being under enormous stress, like you guys have been, like we all have been, to try to mitigate any illness that could be forced upon me via jabs, which are never going to happen to me, but I know it's happened to a lot of people, and a lot of people under duress, and a lot of people were conned into it. So this is one of the reasons why we set up the Healing Center, to help as many people as possible without judgment and without restrictive practices in terms of people's income. If you can't afford the treatments that we offer or the therapies that we offer, they're free. It's donation based. This is how we're moving towards where we want to go. But the biggest issue I've found is that most people don't really have a true diagnosis of where the issues are specifically in their body that they need to fix in order of importance. And I've had lots and lots of guests on over the last 4 years that have pointed towards ways of doing this. But the most comprehensive test I think I've ever had, and the most useful one, is the one that I'm going to share with you today, because I met a gentleman called Richard Cumbers last year, and I'm going to try and bring him into the Zoom room now, because Richard, here he comes. Richard has vast experience in a lot of the areas that we have discussed on this show over a long period of time, but he's been at it for much longer than I have. And hello, Richard. How are you?
Hi, Mark. Very good. I'm down in Costa del Dingle. Temperature's about 19 degrees, which is positively sweltering, and I've had a bit of blanket over the window because of the sunshine.
Which is extraordinary, because anytime I do a show like this with somebody else in Ireland, it's usually lights on, fire on, jacket on, coat on. So this is it's very nice for us to have this, and thanks for giving up your lovely evening for an hour or so, because I've just given an introduction to the kind of thing that you do. But do you want to give us a bit of background about your healing journey and journey to being the healer that you are, without me butting in?
Okay, yeah, so I was lucky enough in some ways to be brought up mainly in Saudi Arabia and the Far East. I was at boarding school in the UK. My father worked for Saudi Arabian Airlines, and his job was to Saudiize the airline, to get the Saudis flying the planes and doing all the bits and pieces for an airline, which was pretty full on. And we used to look in horror as these 707s came in and pancaked, and they just bulldozed them into the desert. So it was quite fun in in a very macabre way. But what it was that because he was working for the airline at the age of 13, I was flying out from boarding school, and I'd say, I want to go to Karachi, I want to go to Bombay, and he'd just write me a ticket. So I'd jump on a plane and get into quite a lot of trouble, as you can imagine, being 13, 14, 15, up to the age of 18. But I was very lucky because I saw some amazing things. I saw gurus sitting there with needles through them with no blood, and they'd pull it out. I saw all these crazy things going on. And even in Saudi, where you kind of learned a bit about what might be called quantum physics, or things that were mad, because things happened out there that were truly unbelievable. I mean, for example, a brand new roll-on, roll-off ship, maiden voyage, came into port and just turned over and sank in the port. There were 300 ships waiting to come in Jeddah in the 70s because basically the authorities were completely incompetent. Yeah. So that gave me a real insight into things that were pretty crazy, very interesting. And because I traveled around at that age, I saw various healing technologies or modalities that were just not known in the West. So when I kept coming back to the West, I thought, crikey, we've got all these wonderful allopathic drugs, these magic bullets, so-called. And there's a massive difference between the two of them. Very quickly, I came to realize that these magic bullets were only symptom-based, not cause-based, and that most people were ignoring what was happening in the East and the Far East. So that got me into it. I then had a brief, 15 years in computers, working for a merchant bank and on contract in Brussels, where I saw amazing corruption all over the place. I realized that bankers had been spelt wrong. And I just thought, wow, this is incredible. I mean, seeing what I'm seeing, I used to be the odd time I went to a nightclub at 3 o'clock in Brussels, and all these guys with the special suits were in there buying 6 bottles of whatever at £500 on the expense account. And there was no way they were going to be at work that day or probably the next. So it was interesting. It was just the fact that it was so corrupt. So I kept getting into natural healing, obviously from my background in Saudi Arabia and flying around. And based on that, let's turn that phone off. Based on that, I started to track down certain people who were very much into it. And I was lucky to find, I had a very sort of one of those wow moments, a bit like yourself. I walked into my kitchen, a lovely flat overlooking the sea down in Worthing, and it was massive nimbocumulus clouds. You couldn't see any light at all. And I just thought, I really want to be at the forefront of energy medicine. And as I said that to myself, this hole opened up and this literally beam came in. It was incredible. The very next day, I ended up meeting one of the inventors of the NES system, which is a neutral energetic system. It's very powerful, works as a QED system. You can run it on information only. And I got involved with them right at the beginning before they'd even invented it. And one of these guys, Harry, was quite ill. So I was treating him right from the beginning. And it was a privilege to work with these guys because they were just way out there. And so one thing led to another. I ended up traveling, spending a lot of time and money learning. I went on at least 40 courses all over the place. I was pretty penniless at the time, but just learning more and more and bumping into the most amazing people. So based on that, I thought, wow, again, you ask yourself this question: why isn't this out there? Why is the NHS so massive? And and eventually, I just realised those truths, kept turning stones over, and realised the path to looking at the esoteric, a bit like yourself. And every time I turned the stone over, there was another one, and it became so much so that when I saw something that was unbelievable and corrupt, the next one was even bigger and even bigger. So eventually I realized that everything was the education system, judicial system, everything was 180 degrees where it was, and got much more involved and started a company called Pain Genie back in 2006. Already been into it for quite some time, and got involved with the space program. Not just the Russian space program. I can hear people go, oh, the Russians. But the Russians are way ahead in so many ways. Also involved with some things from NASA. I think that's called not a space agency, or I'm not sure what they call it now. Or never a straight answer, one of the two. But the technologies these guys have is super powerful. And usually you're never going to see it in the HSE or the NHS. You're never going to see this stuff. And even now, you look at, say, the NHS in the UK. I mean, recently I saw, I look at the papers now and again, 7.5 million people waiting for treatment. I mean, this is mind-blowing. So, the thing is, Mark, if you and I started a health company, I know you have, but so we started a health company, got everyone to give us some of their tax money, and we called ourselves a Mark and Richard Health Company. And after 3 years, everyone was ill, we needed more money, we'd be shut down.
Yeah.
So the point being is that these monolithic systems are so bad because the doctors, to my mind, most of them, not all of them, but are not realizing that they're doing the wrong thing at the fastest speed. They're not dealing with the cause. And so, for example, since 1939, they've introduced another 100,000 chemicals into the food supply, into the clothing supply. People are buying polyester clothes, plastic recycled clothes. I mean, it's incredible what's actually in the clothing now. So with many other people around the world, we share information. We have a massive understanding and list of those toxins. So we start as a principle, like I've been running training courses for about 20 years, and we start off very simply. So number one, you're not sick, you're toxic. Yeah? And my good friend Clive is very much the same. You're not sick, you're toxic.
Yeah.
Number two, your body never actually harms itself. So what they call autoimmune is the body trying to get rid of something that if it didn't do that, you'd be actually worse off if you didn't. And number three, all disease, all uneasiness is pretty much caused by blockage. And if you can find the blockage, you can unblock it. I mean, it's really quite simple when you make it so. So the problem we got again with most of the allopathic medicine is, for example, they do blood tests. We know only 30-35% accuracy pretty much, and many of them say that as well, off record. Why? Because they take your blood, they let it die, they put it in a test tube, send it off for 2 or 3 days. They spin it in a centrifuge at 3,600 RPM with a massive electromagnetic field, which pleomorphizes the blood anyhow. And then they look for something that may be there or may not be there. So you can see that it keeps going. This is a very good way of getting repeat customers. And even Big Pharma, I know that guy was recorded in Dublin. I can't remember which major company he was, but even he said to this taxi driver who recorded him, when the guy said, "Oh, so you cure people, do you?" He said, "Oh, no," he said, "we want repeat customers." So, this is where we're coming from. And to start with, we were just getting people who were really ill. We'd been through the whole system. They'd had all those horrible things that they do. But now we're getting an increasing number who realize that, to have a health MOT themselves, because there's so many toxins out there. For example, you buy a new car, highly toxic. You buy a new 3-piece suite. Not all of them, but highly toxic. The women wearing those, these leggings, which are rather, they used to use spandex. They now use elastane. It's in the knickers, it's in the bras. Highly toxic.
Yeah.
So with our remote scanning, which we would say we're pretty happy, is 95% plus accurate. We're not medical doctors, by the way, so the disclaimer is we don't make diagnoses, but we're very good at working out what toxins are there. And once we've worked it out, then we can go straight in at it and tell you what the solutions are, because we're not into just say, well, there's a problem, goodbye. We're into, there's the problem, this is the solution for it, in as far as we're concerned. So really, since, 2005-06 with Payne Genie and doing remote scanning, we've done thousands of them. When you came down to see me, I don't know when it was, 3 months ago. I knew you had, there's one issue you said, but I think when we ran the scan on you down there, I picked up immediately a massive overrun of what they call Coxsackie virus. And
I'm just looking for the Payne Genie. I'm not being rude.
Okay. But when we came up within 10 minutes, we came up with two major viruses. Where, of course, a virus is only from Latin a toxin. So a virus is just, again, a toxin. But within 10 minutes, I said, "Oh, we found all this." And you went, "Oh, gee, but there's the two things I've had."
Yeah.
Within 10 minutes. And you were like, "Oh, this is crazy. How on earth could, why 10 minutes? Why doesn't it take 5 months or 10 years?" So the trick is, if you have the right equipment and the right kind of back or knowledge but behind it, when we do train people, we love that, then usually we can find things pretty quickly. And it's always really good to service the car before it breaks down. So that's our motto. We'd rather help people before they've got major problems, but either way around, we're open for business and we're trying to serve them and help them.
Absolutely. And, you know, I've had the pleasure of meeting lots of people like Clive de Carl and Ian Clark and other people that are doing amazing work in this field. And then I met you. And I think I met you because I was trying to get a delivery of Vortex bottles from Harry Rhodes, and you said, I'll drop them off. And he came to my house with a car full of stuff. And we had a good chat. And you did a scan with the Pain Genie then and worked on me and Gary and a few other friends. And it was extraordinary. And then when we came to visit and you did that scan, it's often good for me to get out of the house and go somewhere where, you know, I'm not being distracted by children or other things. And I was just gobsmacked with the accuracy and the detail. And I've seen you do it on other people remotely and the same thing where they're going, oh my God, this is the best scan I've ever had. I can see, and it all makes sense suddenly because you don't get, you know, people. I met somebody yesterday I'll tell you this quick story. So I was running business seminars 15 years ago, and one of the people that came to my seminar 15 years ago got ill during COVID. And during that time, he's an inventor and an entrepreneur, an amazing man, somebody I really got a lot of respect for. And apparently he was he had a mild heart attack, and he cured himself with exercise with oxygen, and then he went deeper into it and looked at hyperbaric oxygen. Then he found red light, and then he found PEMF, and he found all these things. And because he'd never been in that situation before, he looked around and he said, I can't believe this is not available. Well, as you just said, the NHS, it wasn't anywhere in the NHS that he could see. And there were clinics that had one thing here or one thing there. So because he had the financial resources, he set up a clinic, and then he attracted a few interesting people to that clinic. And one of which gave me a spine treatment yesterday morning, which I posted up on social media yesterday, and which was amazing. And myself and Gary went to visit him because this woman had been watching my show for 4 years, Lillian. Hi, Lillian, if you're watching. And they saw this video that I did about the Live 5D Health Center when we just set it up. And she went and showed it to him and said, Jonathan, look at this. And Jonathan went, I know him. That's Mark Atwood. So he got in touch with me. So I can't believe you're building I've built one in Scotland. So me and Gary went to see him yesterday and the day before. And while we were there was a woman in the next room who'd had a diagnosis. I mean, this is the key word I want to get across to the viewers. A diagnosis is when a doctor trained by the Rockefeller medical institutions we know in the UK as the NHS, in Ireland as HSE, and different names elsewhere. And she'd been told she got breast cancer. But a year later, she has no breast cancer because she took her health into her own hands and started using oxygen, red light, PEMF, all these good water with salted, all these good things. Started eating the right diet, which is usually not to do with bread and vegetables and fruit. And she'd taken it all into her own hands. And she was saying it was because of shows like this, not just me, but lots of other people talking about these things that had helped to get confidence to be able to say, well, I hear your diagnosis. Now, because when most people hear a diagnosis like you've got cancer, what happens? They crap themselves. And then they start manifesting it. I mean, exactly. I was in a meeting with my mother and a doctor 14 years ago, and the doctor said, you've got breast cancer. And then he went through this, he had a fucking clipboard and he was going through all the benefits of chemotherapy like this, like a double glazing salesman.
I know, yeah.
And I was sat there and I went, I can't believe what I'm hearing. And I remember I listened to some of the statistics he used, and he was totally befuddling my mum, who was shitting her pants, thought she was going to die. And when he finished speaking, I said, hang on a minute. You just said this is that, and that is this, that. And I said, well, if you add all that up, that means chemotherapy is about 0.0001% effective. And he went, my mum just ran across the room and said, where do I sign? Where do I sign? And I was like, Mum.
2.3%. Yeah.
It was ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Which is lower than it would be if you just left it alone, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, a good friend of mine, David Noakes, set up GC Math,
Yes.
First Immune in Guernsey.
I followed that story years ago.
Yep. And I was out there with him in the early days, running training courses for him and his staff to accelerate the healing for the cancer clinics he had. The thing with David was, I mean, a remarkable guy, works in Delta, gets things done. But he unfortunately wanted to tell the truth.
Yeah.
And he was out there calling them CUNTs, literally to their face. He was out there on the radio saying, these guys are scumbags. This judge is a complete, and, I did say it. I said, David, look, you're right. You've got to be slightly economical with the truth, because you're like in a lion's cage with a 12-inch ruler, whacking the thing on the head. And of course, that's what happened. I mean, he got raided. I actually luckily got out literally with my girlfriend 6 hours before 20 armed coppers broke into his house, arrested them. From then, he got put into prison in Wandsworth, again, a trumped-up trial. I was there at the trial, and even the judge said, it's been handed down to me, this sentence. I mean, you couldn't make it up. So he went to Wandsworth, then he's taken out of Wandsworth, arrested illegally, taken to France without a passport, and put in one of the worst prisons in France with his lead scientist, his girlfriend, Lynn. And I was over in Paris treating Lynn because she had atrial fibrillation, was going to die. I got her out of prison for 11 days. She was going to come back to the UK, and we got her stabilized, so she was really quite happy. And, and then they rearrested her before we left. So, if you're going to take these guys on, you have to realize if you're interfering with their commerce, then you're going to have problems. What I try and do is say, look, these are all natural things. Give you a choice. It's totally up to you what choice you have. If you want to go that way and you believe the doctor, that's fine. But if you didn't know there was a pain genie, if you didn't know that remote scanning is super powerful, and we can go through all this stuff and tell you, like a training course at the end of it, all these things that you can look at, all of them which would be beneficial for you, depending on your budget or where you're coming from. But a lot of things are incredibly cheap. I mean, to give an example, pure organic Demeter quality lemon oil. Lemon's the highest frequency of any fruit.
I put it on as per your instructions last night, because the other oil turned up yesterday as well.
Good.
I slept for 14 hours last night.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah. Well, you see, you rub lemon oil into here. It's full of D-limonene. It's very much anti-tumor, anti-cancer. So when we do training courses, we bang it into the air. We use all the citrus oils because they're full of D-limonene. But when you rub it onto this thymus here, because obviously what's happening is from your bone marrow, you're producing these, what they call the immune system, which really isn't there. It's a detoxification system, because you're not sick, you're toxic. So you get all these white blood cells, they go basically through the thymus. When they hit the lemon oil with that frequency, several universities have shown just that one thing applied every night, the thymus starts regrowing.
So let's just rewind a little bit for the viewers. This is lemon, essential oil of lemon.
Yeah.
And it's, how much does that cost for a bottle?
A good one between 10 and 15 euros.
10 and 15 euros. And you point exactly where the thymus is, would you?
Thymus is, so literally 4 fingers beneath the suprasternal notch.
So it's literally just there.
Yeah.
How many drops at night?
2 or 3.
2 or 3. Just rub it in?
Just rub it in, yeah.
And but that bottle will last a couple of months?
Well, probably, yeah. And of course, it smells great.
Yep.
So, we have literally loads and loads of things on our schedule. So when we're doing a remote scan with somebody, we're pointing it out. When we send them a schedule, I think it's, 20, 30 pages with what we believe is really good information. There's probably 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 hours viewing if they really want to view it. There's links to shows like Clive's show, like your show, talking about certain things. When we suggest when we're targeted for somebody and we suggest that they take X, Y, Z, we don't just say take X, Y, Z. We say take it because of this reason, that reason, that reason. And by the way, only buy it from this link, because they're not all the same.
Yeah. Well, that's important to point out as well, because somebody asked me the other day where to get ivermectin from, and I said, well, if you want to get it, beware of the cheap Chinese stuff. You need to get the stuff that's food grade, high grade. And they were like, well, how do you know? And this is a big problem for people, because it's all about who do you trust with this information,
Sure.
Which is why I wanted to bring you onto the show, because I'm saying this to the viewers. 95% of the time on this show, I have done the things that I'm talking about, or I consume the things that I'm talking about, or I've met the people and worked with the people that I'm talking to. Sometimes I haven't, and sometimes I've got it wrong. It's your discernment that is important with that. Somebody emailed me about this the other day saying that I'd interviewed somebody, they didn't agree with them and it reflected badly on me. And what I'm saying to the viewers is, no, I'm here to discover things the same as you are. I'm just a bit further ahead in some of those areas than others. And also, I think it's good to get alternative views on so that you can make your own mind up. So that's a really good point. But you were saying, I'm sorry I interrupted you. I just wanted to point out how simple it was for some of these remedies, because I'm going through the process of finding new things all the time, and you've helped me do that, and I appreciate that very much, which is why you're here. But you were saying that actually, if you just rub the lemon oil in for a period of time, the gland, which gland is it that grows back?
The thymus.
The thymus gland grows back. And what does that mean to people?
Well, again, it's part of the immune system, or otherwise detoxification system. So that means your ability to remove toxins from the body is increased.
And why would the thymus gland not be at full capacity?
Well, many reasons, but typically because how many toxins are there? There's millions of toxins now. You've got EMF frequency, electromagnetic frequencies is the biggest problem. 20,000 studies. Everyone's got a phone, a Wi-Fi, a smartphone, smart TV, living in a flat. They've got everything coming. They've got satellites beaming it down. So the thing is now, because everything's so toxic, you need to be targeted into what's happening and really given solutions, because a lot of it is to stop doing certain things and do certain things. But obviously, most people who grew up in probably the 50s and 60s on a good, staple, relatively organic diet were pretty strong. But now you've got so many people who have just had maybe a bad lifestyle. They've got too much EMF. They've got things like elastanes in their trousers, for example, or their knickers. 1 in 4 now having fertility problems, going for IVF. I mean, this is beyond anything you could imagine. But typically, you imagine it, if you have a system like on a boat, which is a pump getting rid of the water, and you're sailing maybe spiritually the wrong path, or you're sailing into a storm, you get more and more water, well, eventually the pumps are having to work harder and harder. So they're going to fail. Same as the thymus, same as your bone marrow. If you keep on getting toxins and like more water on the boat, then there's only one thing that can possibly happen. You're going to get one wave comes over and the boat's going to sink. So what we're trying to do is to say to people, let's do these, if you want to do these scans with us. For example, the NES scan is a pure energy scan. The Tesla is nuts and bolts, and we put the two together. That's how we found, say, the one thing like Coxsackie that was right behind 2 of your major problems.
Well, I'll just slow you down there, because you've just mentioned 2 different scans very quickly, and the viewers will go, what did he say? Did he say Tesla? Yeah. So that's 2 different scans. Okay. One is called the Tesla. It's not Nikola Tesla, is it?
No, I wish it was, but it's based on his understanding and his science. Yeah.
So that's one scan. You put that with what was the other one called?
The NES scan.
And that stands for? That's
a neutral-energetic system. It's a pure energy scan. The nice thing with this pure energy scan is, for example, that let's just say that there are some of the big fields of the Earth, for example, we found with you. And these big fields relate to EMF, general toxins, things like telluric lines of energy, ley lines, gravitational fields. And depending on the level of these, they can really cause havoc with the body field, which is a field of energy. And so if these 2 major ones are out, it's vital, in our view, we put these right. It's absolutely vital. So that's one thing. But then we have things like meridians, and there's 12 major meridians in Chinese medicine. Now, if one of these meridians is blocked, let's just take the liver, for example. It has a certain frequency. It kind of starts here and ends here. Now, if the liver's at that frequency, it means you can't have a liver problem. But the liver is linked by Chinese and Ayurvedic medicine to things like anger, which is the main emotion of, say, the liver, like the kidneys are fear, the heart's joy. So if, for example, that meridian's functioning within that bound, you can't have hepatitis or fatty liver or cirrhosis or whatever. It's going to be okay, pretty much. So our thing is, if we can find that rather than being here, it's here, well, that might mean you could have 10 different diagnoses. Let's say it's up here, you might have 20. So if we can find that that's a major issue and give you the remedy for that, we can avoid looking at hundreds of other things, because once we get the frequency right, you can't have a problem with it, pretty much. And that's the beauty of it. It's like a terrain. We had pasteurization. So Pasteur came up and said, and this is all based on the craziness of COVID, he came out and said, basically germs cause everything, And another French guy called Beauchamp said, you're wrong. It's about terrain. And even Pasteur admitted on his deathbed that Beauchamp was right, and it was about terrain. And then, of course, when his nephew published Pasteur's diaries, he showed he'd lied about every single test he did. So this guy's responsible for an awful lot of shit. But Pasteur said, to make it easy, imagine you live in the country and there's lovely rolling hills and there's 3 holes. You live in the country, you say, oh, they're rabbit holes because I live in the country. So rabbits dug them. But if we were to ask you, are the rabbits living in the holes? Well, the first ones may have gone on holiday. The second lot could have got shot by the farmer, and the third lot could have got myxomatosis and died. We don't know. But what we can say is if this is the size of the hole, a rabbit or anything smaller than a rabbit, a stoat, a mouse, a weasel, a ferret, could live in that hole. Now let's pretend that these are viruses, groups of viruses. They can only exist, that toxin, if there's damage to the internal terrain of the body. Yeah. So in bioenergetics, terrains are super important, because if we find several terrains are out, yeah, like coronavirus is a terrain, 400 different types of so-called viruses, but that's a healing. So when you're getting at high temperature and you're raising your voltage, that's the body healing. It's not a problem. But of course, they want to come along, give you something to bring the fever down. In the old days, they would cover you with blankets, put ice on your head, you'd sweat it out, and you'd get up and you'd be fine. Now you're knocking back 16 different, blinking drugs, all of which have massive LD50 side effects. So the body stops that healing. You might think temporarily you're okay, but then within 6 months, if that was antibiotic, you could have serious other problems.
Well, that's a really powerful point, because you've taken me back to my own childhood and my dad saying, right, I'm going to sweat this one out. He'd disappear for a couple of days, come back right as rain. What you're saying is that what people do is they take the pill, so the body stops the healing, which makes it look as if they're better because they're not going through the healing, which is the thing that actually looks like it's the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
And how do you think? Because that's kind of like a magic trick, isn't it? They've turned it into an illusion that they're healing you, but actually making you worse.
Exactly. Well, you see, if you look at every single drug has what's called an LD50 rating. Now, a lot of new doctors don't even know what LD50 mean, but it stands for lethal dose 50%. So what they do with every drug, they take the drug and they take these poor beagles and rabbits and rats, and they measure the body weight, and they keep giving them many milligrams of the drug per kilogram of body weight until they've killed 50% of the animals. They then scale it up for an 80-kilogram man, and that's called the LD50. So by definition, every single drug is dealing with the symptom, never the cause. And they'll admit that, by the way. They'll probably admit that, because they admitted that the placebo is more powerful than any drug, right? But what happens is all those negative side effects then kick in because the body has been stopped from a natural process. So take a typical one. You've got streaming, you've got a load of snot streaming out of your nose. Oh, I can't go to work. Oh, I better stop something. So you go and take some anti-congestion or something that stops it happening. But that's all like IG4 and 5. It's pulling stuff out. That's why it's streaming out of you. You go and stop it. Well, the symptom has stopped because this is why you're feeling bad. But now it goes deeper. And this is why there's 7.5 million people waiting for treatment in the UK. And they're only ones actually on the list.
Yeah.
So you can see why the average lifespan's coming down. You can see why so many people were completely taken in with fear on the COVID debacle. I mean, they just got in so much fear, and a lot of them, you just can't blame them for it. I mean, you get fearful, you don't think properly, you queue up and you want to be well. But so these energy scans are beautiful, because once you get the frequency of what it should be, we can just say, go back to the thing with the rabbit holes, right? So there could be 80 different things living in those holes. So this is what happens. You get ill, you go to see your doctor, he takes some blood, he says, I tell you what, Mark, you've got a problem, but we'll take the blood and we'll let it die, spin it around 3,600 RPM, and we'll test you for rabbits. Can't find rabbits, take some more blood, let it die, spin it around 3,600 RPM. We're looking for stoats. Can't find stoats, bugger it. Take some more blood. Oh, you've got mice. You've got mice, man. So we're going to give you the remedy for mice, okay? But the mice might be there on a Tuesday. They might have buggered off on the Friday. So what we do in bioenergetics is say, tell you what, there's the hole. We'll just fill it in. We'll fill the hole in. And the remedies are designed. We have lots of different remedies we can find. again, just like things like the pain genie, unless you fall over it, you're never going to realize how good this stuff is, until you evolve with it.
I want to do a separate show with you on the pain genie because that's a whole bigger subject. So it's amazing, and we'll come back to that. But there's a couple of things you brought up there. One thing is, for example, going back to the man, Jonathan, who set up the clinic in Glasgow, a wonderful human being. I've got a lot of time for him. When he picked us up from the airport, we got into his car and he's driving a Tesla and he's wearing an Apple Watch, right? And I couldn't help myself. I said, great to see you again, Jonathan. This is killing you. And so is that. And he just looked at me like I was a nutter, as he did 15 years ago when he came to my seminars. And he looked at me like, well, you still smoke, so you can't lecture me, kind of thing. And we got deeper into that conversation. And it turned out that although his personal experience was phenomenal with the oxygen, with the red light and stuff like that, when it came to things like EMFs, he didn't believe that they harmed him at all. And he said, it was just not my experience. I can't find any science that backs it up because, I thought that was really interesting because here's a man who's gone so far that he spent hundreds of thousands building a place that will help heal people. Yet the place is full of EMFs. He's wearing an EMF. I mean, I think it was you that told me about the damage that these watches do. Do you want to explain that for the viewers? Because that alone is a big reason not to wear one, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're very good at obfuscating things and hiding things. So, a lot of people they said, oh, I've checked for EMFs and I've checked and I've gone to Wikipedia and they look at all the government run kind of, websites and come back and say, oh, it's rubbish. But as soon as you start digging a tiny bit and don't look on page 1 of Google, for example, right, look at page 50 and look at other search engines, there's well over 20,000 studies. So you think about EMF. So on a normal smartphone, which is not smart, obviously, okay, I've got an old style phone, but you've got the normal signal that you call someone with, the GSM signal. I think that's about 868 megahertz. That's 868 million cycles per second. Million. Then on your phone, you've got a Wi-Fi enabled. That's 2.4 gigahertz. That's 2.4 billion cycles per second. Then you've got Bluetooth enabled, which is another frequency. Now, it just so happens that when they were looking at these frequencies for transmission, they could have chosen any frequencies. They could have chosen frequencies that were fairly good for the body. But what did they choose for the Wi-Fi? They choose 2.4 gigahertz. How does your microwave oven work? It uses the same thing, but higher power. So you're microwaving yourself. And 2.4 gigahertz works in your microwave by blowing the water up, which then heats the meat or whatever it is internally. And so the same frequency, not just like for 5 minutes with a piece of beef, 24/7, 24/7, 24/7, 7 days a week, kids sleeping with a smartphone under their pillow. But not just with one frequency, 3, because there's things enabled. So what happens is it destroys the water. And the studies there, I mean, look at anyone watching this, go to look at Barry Trower, Trower. Look at Dietrich Klinghardt. I mean, there are literally, on the schedule I send people out after the remote scan, there are 3 pages on links to look at. So I've listed loads of stuff because if we find these problems, and normally we do, it just depends on the scale of them, whether they're this big or that big. But even if they're this big, once you're aware of it, you're going to do something about it. You're going to find ways of doing it. But also, when you wear this watch, right, this area here where the watch is, this is a major input into your sympathetic, parasympathetic healing system. So if you put a watch on here that's transmitting Bluetooth, whatever, you're transmitting right into these points. I mean, it's like another Achilles heel. So the last thing you want to do. But also, if I were to broadcast a frequency, and of course, you look at Hollywood, right? You look at what was that? Those films, Kingsman, with the phones. Yeah. Well, for example, as Tesla said, frequency, energy, and vibration. Every frequency has an effect on the body. So if I play 6, just so I won't say exactly what the frequency is, but between 6 and 7 hertz to a man, it'll make him sexually aggressive. If I play 2.4 gigahertz, I'm going to destroy the water in your body. This is why these meridians have frequencies. And so the highest frequency of any meridian is the pancreas meridian. And what's interesting in esoteric knowledge is that they talked about the Shoshuna, this golden thread or silver thread that links to your soul. And people like Robert Temple and people like that, Science of Heaven, would say it's about a millionth of an inch, and it goes to this bioplasma, and that's your kind of soul. But the issue is it links to the pancreas. Well, the pancreas is the highest frequency of any of your meridians. And guess what the destructive frequency is for the pancreas? Everything on your phone and your Wi-Fi. So if I was going to want to shut down connection to spirit, which meridian would I hit? Well, I'm going to hit that one, sure. So these things, anyone can find them. We just make it easy when we do these scans, because we label this information. People can look at it or not. They can just do our suggestions, but we suggest that to be really well, you have to take the bull by the horns and do a little bit of work to realize it.
Well, that's what I think is important about this, because I've been doing a lot for myself, but then doing this scan with you, as you said earlier, I was gobsmacked to see that meningitis was still there, for example. I mean, this is from 5 decades ago and it's still there. And when you told me it's there, it's just dormant. And I was like, well, how do I get rid of it? And then that's the thing. It's like, the reason I love the scan so much is because I feel for the first time I've actually got a map for me. And what I've done is taken from that scan, digested the information, and then created a little checklist. And now I'm trying to implement the checklist so that it makes you much more conscious of things that you need to do in the order in which you need to do them. And like we said, like with the lemon oil, it's not necessarily expensive. A lot of it is common sense and piecing everything together. So I thought it would, unless there's anything else you think's pertinent to the discussion, I thought it might be a good idea to go through my own scan without giving anything too personal away. But just to show people the kind of things that you found in me, because I think it's always best to see a real life example, and I don't mind being the guinea pig.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to add before we do that?
Probably not really. I'd have to be fairly quick with it because of time, but
we can do a short version now, and we can come back and do a part 2 in more in depth if you want to.
Okay,
I want you back on to talk about the Pain Genie as well. And if you guys watching, when you watch a bit, I'm going to put a link below where you can apply to get a scan done by Richard. I'll put you directly in touch with him, and I highly recommend it if you can do it. But just let's go into what you want to talk about. How long have you got left?
Well, I'm fine for time. I think you said you had 60 minutes to start with, so I didn't want to go over it too much.
Well, let's spend 15 minutes just giving the highlights here, and then we can come back and do a deeper version next week, maybe.
Okay, yeah. So let me load the energy scanner. Can you see that now?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll be fairly brief with this.
But that's not me though, is it?
Oh, I think you look pretty good there, Mark.
Where's the penis?
I don't know. I won't say anything about that.
I couldn't resist. Go on.
So, okay, let me just come here then. BFA, right. So this first screen, so what it is, you can see these kind of bar charts. The sun's coming in my eyes now. If we've got a white area here, so I put this cursor, if it's white, this means it's not a problem for you at the moment. Then we have the big field aligner. Now, the big field aligner is one of those 2 major big fields of the Earth. And if they're blocked, they typically stop other healing happening. So if someone's got real health problems, and we find this comes up, which is usually the case, if it comes up, but by the way, the blockages go from white, which is not really a problem. Then we have green, then we have yellow, then we have orange, and then we have red, which is a much bigger blockage. But the orange ones are pretty big. And that means the analogy is that if you were swimming against the tide, you're going to use a lot of energy and you're probably going to go backwards. So this field is about the big fields of the body, how underground water lines, telluric lines of energy are affecting your gravitational fields. It will affect how proteins are being absorbed in your bowel and your liver. And it's very much affected by a lot of EMF frequencies too. But as we have an actual remedy for this, a bioenergetic remedy, which we would say is, you think of homeopathics. If you get the right homeopathic, it's really powerful. Well, this is another level because it's trying to get a band of frequency back. Okay. So again, we'll just skip on to the next screen. If I can get rid of the thing on the top. And this is, we call this EDs, energetic drivers, and there's 16 of them generally. the drivers are important because they're driving energy. So they're pushing energy. So this means that if these are blocked, you're not having energy in those systems to really power the body up. And the biggest one pretty much is what we call source driver. Source driver is like magnetic confetti that powers the entire body field. And this is totally ruptured by things, again, like EMF, a lot of travel, moving from here to here, aircraft, toxins, car fuels, etc. We then come down to the reds here. There's 3 reds. Circulation. Well, circulation is about how the blood is traveling around your body. And in bioenergetics, what's important is your heart isn't a pump. It never was. It's like a ram pump. It's like a dam. So the blood comes in, boom, 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 and the heart lets it go through. But the heart's job is a vortex, 7 muscles, and they contract and they imprint acoustic sound wave information into your blood. So the blood, like everything, is really the sound. So it's like you can't see my voice, just sound waves going through there. So circulation is the heart is imprinting acoustic information into the system. If the circulation is raised, it's again because the body's trying to get rid of stuff. Circulation's raised. This can be things like atherosclerosis, things like blockages. You've got maybe a few meters of big arteries. You've got about 120,000 miles of 7-micron capillaries and veins. It's unbelievable. I mean, I don't know who counted these things, but it's huge. So the circulation is massively important because if there's blockages, the body's having to force it through. We then have lung driver. It's about the lungs. And in bioenergetics, the heart really is, physical heart problems is controlled by the lungs. So lung energy is super powerful for the heart. And so lungs is about how the lungs are functioning, what you're breathing in. Are you breathing crap in? Do you smoke? You're living in, there's many things affect it, including radon, which we found with your Tesla scan, by the way, Mark, yeah?
Yeah.
High radon. And when I searched Roscommon, where you are, guess what? High radon. The scan picked it up right into the top, yeah? So again, I have to deal with that. But lungs is also how you're breathing. Are you expansive? Are you really breathing in okay? Yeah, because your lungs are taking oxygen in, transferring it by the pulmonary vein to the heart to get into the circulation system. So you can see lungs go with circulation. Then we have, I'm being very quick with this, because when we're talking one-to-one on Zoom, we go much more depth, yeah?
Yeah.
So liver driver is how the liver's functioning. Well, liver is usually called the king of the organs, super powerful for filtering the blood, sulfating toxins, all these kind of things the liver has to do. Again, if you think about Chinese medicine, I said earlier on, when we get things like liver, it's usually the balance of anger. So it can be not enough anger or too much anger. What's happening now in the world, all these kind of testosterone lacking guys have no anger. They should be really annoyed what's happening to their countries, to whatever. And they're just going, well, well, it would happen, wouldn't it? And then put some porn on Netflix. I mean, it's absolutely crazy, but this comes back to the liver. If you've got a very toxic liver for various reasons, and it's very easy to have a toxic liver, by the way, it doesn't mean you just have to be smoking and drinking. There's many things that cause toxicity in the liver. But that can also cause this kind of, sort of pathetic sort of understanding that you can't do anything, you have no power. It's that kind of thing. We then have kidneys coming up.
That's not me, and I've got a red there.
No, exactly. But your situation with that is the fact that, I'm talking generally, yeah? So when we look at the toxins, I mean, a lot of people have the right level of anger because they should be bloody angry, yeah? Yeah. They should be angry. And so when you've got anger for the right reason, that's exactly what you want. You need that. But we've got kidneys here as well. Kidneys coming with the liver is a big sign saying we need things like a detoxification, because both of these things are actually detoxification organs, yeah?
Yeah.
Now, detoxification wise, each kidney filters about 90 liters of blood a day. And you probably heard of urine therapy.
Yeah.
On our schedule, we put it on. A lot of people kind of, I don't know, poo-poo it, which is probably the word.
Poo-poo's the wrong word for urine.
Yeah, I know. I just realized that when I said it.
Yeah.
But they kind of look at it in a way that they say, well, but when you get into it, this is thousands of years old. And believe me, you can make your own homeopathics of urine. One of the best kept secrets in Hollywood is that a lot of those Hollywood starlets who look so good, well, what do they put on their face?
I thought that was adrenochrome.
Well, that's, I think, part of something else that they do, yeah.
Yeah, but what do? They put their own piss on their own face.
Yeah, I mean, there's ways of aging. I mean, we just make people aware of it. Most people say, I'm not doing that, fair enough. But if you saw that this has been going on for thousands of years, and let's say that you're on a very tight budget, yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, I've had people on that, and believe me, the health transformation has been incredible.
So what about, just for the viewers, because they're going to be interested in this, what would you tell me to do with my own urine right now?
Well,
And don't take the piss.
well, obviously we have information on the schedule, but was about I've got about 50 different books and articles about urine therapy. The easiest way that you can do this, and by the way, if you're taking medical drugs, I suggest that you get off those first typically. If you're medical drugs, you create a homeopathic of the urine rather than drink it. But if you're not on medical drugs, then what you would do first thing in the morning, you would pee into the loo, let the first 3 or 4 seconds go, and then get a glass container and midstream pee into that container and let the last bit go into the loo, right? Now, that urine is full of over 3,500 different things, including hormones and it's proteins. It's incredible. And a lot of them, because the body couldn't metabolize them, once you take them again in that form, as a homeopathic, because your heart has imprinted homeopathic even into that midstream urine, yeah, then some of the effects can be huge. I'd recommend everyone at least try it if they're not on medical drugs.
So are you saying mix it with water and drink it?
No, drink it neat.
Just drink it neat?
Yep. People can start off. I've got the books on it. I put on the remote scan information, but they can take a pipette clean, take 3 drops, put it under the tongue.
Okay. That doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah, so if you wanted to start off doing it that way, then it would be, fairly okay, really.
Okay.
And then, of course, you could increase it. But some people have gone on to situations where they've been stuck without any water and food, and they drank their own urine, and they've survived 30, 40 days. These are all documented.
Yeah, it's like they tell us don't drink seawater, but actually it's really good for you.
Well, seawater is pretty good. The only trouble with seawater, it's very high in deuterium, same as your tap water and distilled water. And anything over 135 parts per million to deuterium does stop these nanomotors and metabolism working. So if you can bring that down, again, we're finding people with high deuterium. Would you believe there's a company in Hungary that sells deuterium depleted water?
Yeah.
And it's actually a cure or recommended and agreed as a cure for animals.
A cure for?
A cure for animals for cancer.
Doesn't surprise me.
But again, when it comes to humans, no, just don't go anywhere near it. Yeah. So that's kind of where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, these things are out for certain people, but not for others. Animals, and not for other people. But you can go online and look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So these are general situations. Nervous system, again, is to do with brain waves. We mentioned the EMF being very high, 2.4 billion cycles per second. But typically, your body's running at very low hertz. Brain waves are 1 to 60 hertz. There's a 1 to 60 cycles per second. If you're relatively healthy, your heart is holding 1 hertz, 1 beat per second. So you can see that we're running at these low Schumann resonance, 7.83, or should be. So when you've got these massively high frequencies coming in, the body's just not set up for that. So again, nervous system is about quality of sleep. It's all about heavy metal detox, because heavy metals get stuck into your bone. The body's very good at protecting you. So if you get too many heavy metals from fish or car fumes or whatever, the body will store it if it can't get rid of it. And the idea is it will say, when I've got enough energy, I'll come back and I'll get rid of it from the bone, for example. So it'll store it in different places. Yeah.
I've got a question on that, because I've been taking zeolite for a number of years, and I've had a couple of tests on the heavy metals, and I've been told, I was clear, but this is saying that I'm not.
Well, the nervous system is affected by heavy metals, but other things too. It'll be affected by high frequencies, for example. It'll be affected by, you think of sleep, a lot of people now are sleeping in bedrooms that aren't dark, for example. They're sleeping with lots of low frequency wiring around the bed. Yeah. They've got curtains that let light in. Bedrooms can be too hot. They have double glazing. All these things will affect sleep quality. But the nervous system really, is affected by heavy metals, but there's a whole range of different things that will affect that nervous system. But it's really the quality of sleep. So if you're not getting the quality of sleep, you might be sleeping at 11 till getting up at 7. A lot of people go to bed after 12, 1 o'clock. And of course, that can cause problems because each organ has a cycle. So, for example, the gallbladder is between 11 at night and 1 in the morning. And if you're always going to bed after 11 o'clock, the gallbladder can't flush properly.
Well, my mum said when I was a kid, an hour before midnight is worth 2 after.
Exactly that. Exactly that saying. Exactly.
Stomach knowledge, yeah.
Yeah, stomach's coming up. So again, this is about how you're breaking your food down. We flick now to the meridians. There's 12 major meridians. If we go to the major meridian is the liver. And if we show you where the liver goes, the meridian, it goes right up the inside of both legs, goes through the groin and comes up to this area. So the blue area is the pathway is very close to the skin. This sort of gold area that goes right around the houses, around the lower part of the mouth here, and right up to the head, is very deep. But this is a trajectory that the energy from this meridian flows through. The clever thing with this system is that if you imagine a meridian is like a river, that river is only there because of every stream, every tributary, every spring that fed into it. So the clever thing with this system is it works out other things that wouldn't appear to be part of this meridian, but are totally part of because they're the same harmonic as. Give you one idea. Okay, if you think of the sigmoid colon, it's the last part of the colon between the anus and the 6 inches. The sigmoid colon is energetically part of the kidneys at the back here. And that's so when people get things like fissures, hemorrhoids, etc., that's usually a kidney problem, not a colon problem. The system picks it up and it identifies that the kidneys are behind this. Likewise, if there was a tributary up on the Andes feeding down into this Amazonian river, it will find the problem with this is causing the problem here, if you make it simple like that. So it's a harmonic of it. It's a bit like emotions. If you have a lot of fear, the idea of fear keeps resonating. And if you can't deal with that fear, it eventually will filter down and affect the kidneys, because the kidneys, the major thing with the kidneys is to do with fear. Yeah. Mm. It can be a lot of people who are on a very spiritual path, they're not fearful for themselves, they're fearful of other people, their family. But it's still a frequency of it. So you have to look as in a category. So when we come out now and look at this meridian, the system breaks it down to 4 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're looking at the biggest numbers. So 1 over the mediastinum, which is going right around the heart and lungs, a 1 on the diaphragm. So this is how expansion of breathing could be better. Breathing, getting things flowing. If we go into the liver itself, we can see the lymph of the liver is blocked and the lobes are blocked. So we know that the lymph system to do with the liver, the detoxification system, is being backed up a bit.
So,
and obviously,
yeah, sorry to interrupt, but let's just be specific there. So there's a very, very specific blockage that you found. What would I do to unblock these?
It's on your schedule.
Yeah, I know, but can we tell the viewers?
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. So for example,
just as an example.
Yeah. So for example, one thing that is very good for the liver is milk thistle. You can take it as a tincture or whatever. One very good thing is organic sulfur. One big issue with the body generally is if you took the water out of the body, we should be over 50% sulfur. But there's been virtually no sulfur in the food chain for ages. You'd have to eat so many onions and pieces of garlic to get enough sulfur. So there's a product called organic sulfur that we love. We only have 2 sources of it that we know are absolutely pure. But when you take this, it helps the liver sulfate toxins.
Is that MSM?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, MSM, yeah. Brilliant.
Sulfur. So what's happening is, so for the liver to sulfate fat soluble things, it needs to sulfate them so the kidneys, which is water soluble, can get rid of them. Now, if you're lacking in sulfur, you can't sulfate things properly. So when we take the sulfur combined with a few other things, like NaC, for example, yeah, NaC, N-acetylcysteine, when we take that, for example, it helps boost glutathione. So glutathione is is one of the major antioxidants for the body and is very powerful for the liver. But yeah. NaC is the precursor of glutathione. So you've got milk thistle, glutathione, organic sulfur, for example. There's other things too. but they're all powerful in getting the system going.
Now,
So
can I ask you another question? Because how much of that would be could be attributed to historical? Because you said the liver can be blocked by multiple things. It's not just alcohol. How much of that damage is like could be historical or could be or is literally to do with what's happening today?
Right. So it will be quite deep. It won't just be something that happened last night.
Yeah.
So it will be the field of energy is blocked. Typically, this will go back for some time. We can't say exactly how far back, but when we go into the actual deep level emotions, which go in 7-year cycles, we can start tallying these emotions with things that happened 0 to 7 years old, 7 to 14, 14 to 21. If that makes sense.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. Again, if we look at eye health is three meridians that really govern eye health. The liver is a major one. Eyes seem to not be affected by the liver. That means it'll be a different meridian. Frontal lobes of the brain are fine. So we're looking really just down to the liver. What I was interested with your scan was, when I looked at all of it, it was almost like, Mark, that you had some form of protection.
Yeah, you said this on the phone the other day, and I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, it just seems that way. Again, the Tesla, when we look at what it comes up with psychic attack and spells. And so we see a lot of people who have had very nasty words or people thinking bad things about them. It will come up with these psychic attacks. So what we do is we create remedies. We just reverse the psychic attack, and we give them homeopathics based on that, which actually balance it out.
And you're making some of these for me, aren't you?
Some of these we make ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, I've not had those yet, have I?
No.
Yeah. So that's going to be interesting because I can start. I'm doing a lot of the things that Richard has recommended, and I haven't had those yet. And when I've had those, we can do another scan in a few months and do a side by side if we can keep the record. Can we keep the record of this one? Because this
as long as people are happy for us to keep the information, we keep it, and then we can compare each scan with every other scan. Yeah.
Because we did this at the end of February, I think, according to that
This
date.
was done on the 29th of Feb. Yeah.
Yeah. God, where's the year gone?
Exactly. So I'll come out of there. We'll go into another meridian. There's 3 other meridians that have a yellow on it. This is the heart-lung meridian. This is where it goes close to the skin. It comes up the back, the back of the arm here, and goes right around the shoulder blade, and a deep level goes into the body. And then the system breaks it down to numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 to see what's affecting this meridian, which is the heart-lung meridian. So we've got a 4 on the paranasal sinuses. So we're seeing that things you're breathing in can be chemtrails, can be dust, can be car fumes, can be cigarette smoke. Is the major blockage is here, breathing in, which is affecting this heart-lung meridian. We have 2 on the trachea, which again is what's going down the throat. Well, if there's any toxic food, if you're traveling a lot, glyphosate we found big problem with you. Smoke, etc., will affect this area. If we go into the heart itself, we can see chest circulation is slightly out because of this meridian. Again, what we say is the lungs govern the physical heart. So physical heart problems will be down to really the lungs. The heart meridian is more about kind of things like the joy, the happiness, the deep level emotions. Going to the sciatic nerve, and that we've got a 3 on the sciatic sheath of the sciatic nerve.
Is that my left? Is that my left knee?
It can be either. It can be either knee. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've had knee issues. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens is the frequency of the sciatic nerve is a harmonic of the heart-lung meridian.
Yeah.
So often what you'll find is when we treat, say, people with the genie or tell them the problems over the lung area, we find that area, we find it sticky, we treat it, and suddenly the pain in the legs and the knees have gone because that was the blockage there. And so this relates totally to these scans. So if you come down with a genie and you find it sticky, you'll almost certainly find it sticky in these areas. It's a real match. We now come to the small bowel meridian. This is where it comes up the back of the arm here. And it comes right up to the front of the face. At a deep level, it goes right with this gold area right over the navel here. And then we break it down to 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we have a 4 on the ilium tunica of the small bowel. So thing with the small bowel is there are many sections of it, and of course everything's holographic. So remember when I said about the fingers, you look at reflexology, look at the foot. You can treat the whole body from the foot. Palmistry, you can treat the whole body through the palm. But likewise, the end of the finger represents the head holographically. The middle part of the finger is the thoracic area, and the lower part of the finger is the abdomen and legs. So every single organ is a hologram of and relates to the whole body. So give you an example, the jejunum in the small intestine, if that's blocked, it means you can't absorb your B vitamins. So we often find that's blocked, and people taking loads of B vitamins say, I'm taking all these B vitamins. Well, if that's blocked, you can't absorb them. So if you can't absorb them, you can't metabolize them. You know, you're not going to get much benefit. So we're looking at the frequencies to put the frequencies right. Because when you do that, it means often you need very few supplements, just good food. Obviously, you need some supplements now because of toxicity, but you don't need it to be whole. You know, some people have got a whole wardrobe full of everything and taking loads and loads of stuff, which they can't metabolize and they can't use properly.
So this ilium tunica serosa field here, what is that again?
Well, this is going to be down to actually weakness in that area, but also it's going to link to gut flora. Yeah. So a lot of people who get these sort of weaknesses around these things can get weaknesses in which also relate to connective tissue with things like glyphosate, atrazine, connective tissue getting bound together. So you can have a weakness, especially in connective tissue. You get connective tissue problems, you get things like scleroderma, hernias, all these kind of things.
Well, that's what I've got.
Yeah. Scleroderma now is, I think there's 1 million people now in the States who they've got scleroderma, which is not a very nice disease, hardening of the skin, difficulty swallowing, etc. But it's all down to toxins. If you can find the toxins and get rid of them, well, you should be fine. The small bowel also governs the parathyroid, and we've got a 4 on the gland. Well, the parathyroid is super important because it's about how you metabolize calcium. And we know that EMF knocks out calcium and things like the pancreas, because Professor Paul worked out that we've got 75 trillion cells or thereabout. Each cell has these little gates on them called VGCCs, voltage gate calcium channels. And calcium is number 1 as a mineral. But the EMF bombards them and either forces them shut or opens them up, which means intracellular calcium flows in and out all over the place and is not used properly. Well, the function of the parathyroid, the hormone there, is to get the calcium in the right place. So as soon as we see that, we're looking at why that might be. So we're looking at pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, EMF. In other words, a lot of these problems are actually very simple when you've locked onto it, but there could be multiple problems with this. You know, multiple manifestations of things. Yeah. So if I spin the body round, we have a 3 on the thoracic vertebra, and a 4 on the atlas, how the head is sitting on the spine, and a 3 on the sacral vertebra. Now, if you remember your kidneys here, we had a bit of a blockage in the kidney energy, especially if you're charging around and doing a lot of stuff, and especially if you're being psychically attacked, etc.
Yep.
You can have low kidney energy. But when this happens, typically your kidneys will secrete messengers to steal things like calcium and phosphorus from your bone to deacidify your blood, because your blood has to be just slightly alkaline. It can't vary very much. So the spine health is all about the bladder meridian, which is water, yeah, and the small bowel, which is the composition of the vertebra. So this is an indication that you've probably got a bit of osteoporosis, which the other scan is also showing up, which means if we can get the kidneys back and the alkaline balance back, your calcium will go to the right place and your spine health will improve. Because if this were to carry on for too long, you know, you fall over and you break something, or you end up with kyphosis or lordosis or scoliosis in the spine, yeah? If it goes on for too long. So we come out of that, and then we've got the kidney meridian here, which is, again, a long one. Again, it comes up the middle of the inside of both legs. It goes right up here to the area here. the interesting thing with you, Mark, is you've got the kidney meridian blocked and we've got the kidney energy. So this is, again, an indication that when we're looking at those things with cyclic attack, looking at trying to deacidify the blood, the body taking alkalizing things to deacidify the body, which is about detox, is more important for you to get onto that road, which I'm sure you're doing because you've got the schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we come out of that and we see a 4 on the pineal or the top in the brain. So this is probably caused by a bit of calcification and this atrazines and glyphosates. It's not too bad at all. And we come into the kidney itself. And we've got something with the renal tubules and the ureter. So this could be caused by a lot of different things. Can be low-level bacterial infection, but toxins that build up generate bacteria. So when you get toxins in the body, the bacteria are really the cleanup team, if you like, yeah?
Mm.
Of course, the medics way of looking at it is to kill the bacteria. So they would say that the police the guards, police cause every accident. And you say, why? And they say, well, they're always there when there's an accident. They're always there. But they're really the cleanup team. So this is just extra toxicity. If we get rid of it, change the frequencies, the problem goes away, pretty much. So we come out there. I don't know how much more time you've got, Mark. Environmental screen. I guess we should finish on this one. There's up now the screens, but you can see the EMF radiation here.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked by the microwave. And I mean, actually, the computer one there being red is not a shock because I've spent 4 years, 11 hours a day being stuck in front of this thing.
Yeah. So again, it's the computer, it's the Wi-Fi router, etc. We can use TP-Link to put it through the wiring of the house. It's quite easy to change that. But these are pretty high levels. And these will massively affect things to do with these voltage gate calcium channels. So we need to deal with that, and we've done that in the schedule. Another one big thing with insecticides here. So even if you eat very good food at home, as you know, when you travel a lot and you're eating whatever food you can get from hotels, there's massive amounts of these glyphosates.
Well, and, I live in farming country, so I'm breathing it in as well.
They're spraying it everywhere. It's in the water. If people looked at the amount of people who've highlighted this now, especially Stephanie Seneff, PhD, she's absolutely brilliant. And she's showed that the glyphosate poisoning is absolutely catastrophic for the body.
Yeah.
The way it works for plants is it stops the plants using 9 essential minerals because it can't metabolize them. Or didn't they think that when you eat those plants that are sprayed with it, especially the GMO ones, because they're massively sprayed with it, that it wouldn't do the same thing in the body? Well, it does.
Of course it does.
And so, this will affect your, again, detoxification. So even if you're taking lots of things like zeolite, if we can't get rid of these things, you're still going to have problems with these things. That's why people they can be taking stuff for years and years and years, but still actually, when you look at the toxicity of the body is still blocked from getting rid of it. The trick is to find the reasons why. And, this gives us a very good indication why.
Yeah, well, it's like I said, it's a roadmap. And instead of it being a diagnosis from somebody that tells you're about to die, it's like, if these are the things you need to fix specifically. And one thing, there's a cascade effect on your health if you can get these things unblocked, isn't there?
Absolutely. I think the main thing is that, to my mind, this is all about longevity, really, and reverse aging. Because when the metabolism gears up, that the product I make, the Aloha, this is about getting metabolism geared up and getting the body ready to detoxify and having the energy to do it. So really, it's all about voltage. If we can raise the voltage of cells, they detoxify properly. But most cells, the metabolism of them has been highly interfered with toxins, chemicals in clothing. I mean, all the stuff we just mentioned.
Well, let's stop sharing the screen for a second, please. So we've had an hour and a half talking, and as you guys watching could tell, we could keep going for longer, and I think we should. And I'd like to do a part 2 and go a little bit more detail. I want to talk about the voltage as well, because I've been talking about using minerals in water and cleaning the water. And Richard's got a lot to talk about there. He's got a product called Aloha 7, which I can't live without anymore. It's amazing. And maybe we could do the light bulb thing on the next one if is that possible?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because I think that's so we'll do that. Talk about the voltage, show a bit more of my scans, do the voltage, and talk about the Pain Genie on the next one, because Pain Genie, just briefly, is scanner technology that you've been bringing in. Funny, I'll tell a funny story actually. It was about 2017. I was really not very well. I found the Pain Genie on a website and I thought I bought it and I got an attachment for it, but I couldn't get the genie itself. So I had this attachment. But then I met Richard and I was like, it was you, right? So I knew quite a long time ago why I should be looking at that. But like a lot of us, it's to do with your consciousness. And in my case, I've been bombastically going on, well, look, we're in a war. Well, I don't care if I live or die, but I'm at a point now where I really do, and I want to live, and I want to know what these things are. And some people seeing some of these scans, some people will be looking at it, go, "Oh my God, Mark's nearly dead," and some people who get these scans will go, "Oh my God, I'm nearly dead." What do you say to them? Because it's never too late, is it?
So I think the one thing about these scans is that, let's put it this way, if we get lots of things coming up, we're happy. Now, people might think that's going to be the opposite. The reason why is that the body field should be a highly conscious, integral part of, most of your body is energetic. I mean, if people understood that, they realize that physical is only a very small part of it. So if you imagine what it was like when we had the old analog TVs and you got interference. I used to live down in Sussex, and we get terrible interference from France. You'd be looking at it thinking, is that a house? Is that a man? Well, if your body field is breaking down, the lock we get is on things that are absolutely vital, and we're just seeing them out of the mist. But when we get a clear picture, and so we can get lots of reds, we get lots of oranges, that's not a problem. That's the body signaling, I've got a blockage here, I've got a blockage there. I'll give you a very quick thing. I think I mentioned this to your partner the other day, but I had a girl came on a training course of mine. This is about 8-9 years ago. She called me up and she said, "Please help my mother. She's in intensive care. They'd given her 24 hours to live." And I said, okay. So I ran what we called an emergency scan. And again, it was like that. You can tell, you can really tell when someone's having a lot of problems. And there was literally one orange and one yellow, and everything else was either green or white. And so there's a major problem, because everyone has biorhythms, times of the month, cycles. So we dispatched 2 of the remedies. I said, whatever you do, just stick them in a gob and don't let them stop. Don't let them stop you doing it, because they'll try and stop you.
Yeah.
Well, and I said, give her loads. 10 minutes apart, just give them loads and loads. Well, anyhow, long story short, 2 days later, discharged from hospital. Can't work out why, right? But I said to her, I said, whatever you do, that's just, that's just the beginning of it. There's a lot going on. She needs to really get a course of action sorted out. You've got to be really serious about it. But what happened was the mother was like, "Oh, I got well. I feel okay now." 2 weeks later, bang, gone. So that's how it's working. But so most people, even if they're really quite ill, we get a good lock. And so we're not worried about it, and everything's energy vibration and so in frequency. So ultimately, if we can apply the right frequency, the right vibration, we don't think that there's a problem with anything. And this has been proved many times with the Big C. Yeah. As you know, the vibration of GCMAP, people were getting wet all over the place until they shut it down.
Yeah. Well, that's the world we're in, and that's why we have to do things about it, and that's why this is a useful thing. I hope you watching found that illuminating. And Richard, thank you for your time. We will be back and do 1, 2, maybe 3 more, because also Richard and I are talking about running a training course over a couple of days in Ireland, at least, for the Pain Genie and some of this stuff. So keep a lookout for that, because I'm telling you, it's an incredible piece of kit. And these scans are so useful. Thank you for your time, Richard.
Well, thank you for having me on, Mark. It's great stuff.
Yeah, I'm just going to go and cry about my liver and my kidneys. And
well, I say it's not that bad. Go and have a glass of the vino.
Oh, am I allowed to?
Yeah. But you've got the little filter now, haven't you? You bought the filters?
That's not arrived yet.
Okay, great.
No, I
But
bought it. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I bought
they're
it.
great. You put them through that, and the wine tastes even better.
Yeah, well, I've got my little liver detox bottle that I had last night, and I've got my little lemon. I've got these little things are becoming part of my adding to my daily routine, and it's adding up. I mean, I am far more energetic than a lot of people I know who are teenagers, so it's not all bad. It's not all bad. But thank you again for being on, and thank you guys for watching. We'll see you soon. Cheers, Richard.